Mel Gibson has had a rough few years. In 2006, he was arrested for, shall we say, driving around the state of California with a substance in your car that you were not supposed to have in your car. He wrapped up that arrest by going on an anti-Semitic tirade and was subsequently blacklisted from Hollywood for the next 10 years. Prior to that incident and an additional incident in 2010, he was both a celebrated actor and somehow an even better director. Braveheart and The Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto were proof that the man could do no wrong when it came to filmmaking, and the subsequent beating that his public image took is one of the sadder modern Hollywood stories. After receiving some very vocal support from one Robert Downey Jr., who had his own period of bad behavior, Gibson was able to work himself back into Hollywood's good graces and direct the absolutely phenomenal war film Hacksaw Ridge in 2016. He's also done a handful of recent acting parts, knowing full well that he's simply never going to be on anyone's A-list for a starring role. Enter 2020's Fatman, a movie in which Gibson plays a depressed and possibly alcoholic Santa Claus. This is kind of the perfect role for him at this point in his career, so let's see how it turned out. Thank you so much for checking out the review. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new video. Kris Kringle has fallen on hard times as of late. Our dearest Santa Claus still makes and delivers Christmas presents for the kiddos, but the overall negative state of mankind has left him down in the dumps. Drinking at the local bar has become a regular occurrence, and he takes up a contract making weapons parts for the United States Department of Defense in order to make up for his shortfall in revenue. That's the setup for Fatman, a movie that feels very much like an independent labor of love. It's competently made, but takes way too much time getting to the point, and ultimately never lives up to its interesting premise. Billy Wennon is a spoiled little rich kid, neglected by his father and tended to by the help. When Billy doesn't get what he wants, he calls up a hitman to either murder the person who wronged him or just threaten them with death. When he understandably receives a lump of coal for Christmas, Billy sends the hitman to hunt down Santa Claus and perform that sweet, sweet revenge. Really cool concept, and while getting Gibson to play a washed-up version of Santa Claus is a great idea, the movie spends way too much of its runtime formulating the narrative and never actually gives Santa and his wife much to do. I was gonna say that he's a washed-up and overweight version of Santa, but it's Santa. He's already, fat. Santa is a known quantity in this particular universe. Santa has his workshop, everyone in the world believes in Santa Claus, and he actually does deliver presents to kids. But so much of this is simply talked about or shown in glimpses. Perhaps this is a limitation on Fatman's budget, but for a movie that feels like it's spinning its wheels for almost an hour, this is noticeable. Coming in at just 90 minutes, Fatman feels like it's missing a solid half hour somewhere in the middle. And it's a shame that they waste the talents of an actor like Gibson. While the movie takes its sweet time ramping up, it's certainly not a complete disaster. As mentioned, Gibson's performance simply doesn't go anywhere. And the same goes for Marianne Jean-Baptiste's Mrs. Claus, the same goes for the elves, the same goes for the military commanders that oversee the weapons contract with Santa. If you're seeing a pattern here, there's a reason for that. While the movie gives so many of its characters the short shrift, the complete opposite happens with Skinny Man, the crazy, obsessive hitman sent to dispatch Dear Santa. Played to perfection by Walton Goggins, he snatches up all of the screen time and often overshadows everything else in the film. For all intents and purposes, Fatman appears to be a movie about the Skinny Man getting his own revenge on Santa for his very personal reasons. That's not really the way it should be based on the premise and all the setup, but that's exactly what ends up happening. This is evidenced by the sheer volume of screen time that's dedicated to this character, much of it spent following him alone. As weird as this decision seems to be, it ends up being a net positive for the film, as Goggins brings the biggest laughs to the whole affair. Chance Hurstfield's performance as young Billy was also quite good. He brings just the right amount of, oh, look at this cute little kid, to, I want to strangle him with a telephone cord. As sadistic and awful as Billy is, the movie wisely knows when to ease off the pedal a bit before making the character too unbelievable. Fatman desperately wants to be a quirky, independent action comedy, but simply doesn't have the firepower to make it happen. It's let down by a script that focuses on the wrong things, and a world-building effort that doesn't actually succeed at doing anything compelling. Couple that with an understandably violent climax that also lets the audience down because it's over way too quickly, and you've got a film that has some really, really strong parts, but those parts never come together in the way they need to. Perhaps Goggins' performance will push the film into cult classic status, but I have doubts about Fatman becoming a staple of the Christmas movie season. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to click on that red subscribe button. You can also like and share the video since that helps my channel grow. Sound off down in the comments too. Let me know that Fatman is the new Die Hard or the new It's a Wonderful Life, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.